Welcome back, explorers. I'm David, that's Wesley, and this is the trip.
The show that gets so far off track, you'll have to stick around to see just where we end up.
So sit back and listen up, because seriously, this is the fourth time we've tried to talk about this.
That's right. Today we're going to be talking about DC. So, David, real quick, um, you mentioned this. You wrote the script for this, so you're the one that has the recollection. But you said we tried to talk about this four separate times. Would you like to explain that a little bit? Because, you know, I don't remember talking about it four separate times, but I do remember talking at least once or twice.
So, back when we first started doing Down the Rabbit Trail, when we were doing it more of like a video podcast type thing, we tried to talk about the DCEU several times, and
Oh, we're talking about Detective Comics, not Washington, D.C. I'm pretty sure I said comics. Anyways,
yes,
go ahead.
Detective Comments. But no, we tried to talk about this like three times when we did those when we were doing those videos, and every single time, just something happened. Either we didn't have audio, the video file deleted itself, or it was just like really bad quality.
It just wasn't meant to be. Well, talking about really bad quality, this whole entire podcast, this episode right here is going to be really bad quality,
Yeah,
which we
so
apologize for.
we should probably also address that too. We're trying to do this over Discord, so
Yeah, we personal situations have caused this to be the way that we can get this done, and we're working out the kinks. So bear with us for those of you who do listen, or in the future might listen.
yeah, so
And
we're
hopefully,
gonna have some. Hopefully, we can improve this moving forward, but it's kind of impromptu. We don't really have the
yeah,
equipment to do this at the moment, but we're
yeah. So
making the best of it.
doing what we can do. So back on the topic of the DCEU, I guess with that in mind, um, you want to just kind of give me your thoughts on what you think about the DCEU. I will have to
So,
say though, I have not kept up with it since like I think maybe the second Wonder Woman.
mhm. so I
So
don't think I've actually seen. Wait, no, I've seen all of them, but I know. Or as of last time we tried to talk about this, you hadn't seen one of them. I can't remember which one it was. Was it
oh, I
Batman
haven't
v
seen.
Superman?
I've only seen like one of them. I've watched so far. All I've watched is Aquaman, both of the Wonder Woman movies, and the first Shazam because Shazam 2 is coming.
Yeah, so Shazam 2 just came out, which I will say is really good. You need to go watch it.
I will at some point.
And yeah, so honestly,
But
you've probably, with the exception of the um, Suicide Squad movies, you've probably seen the best ones.
oh yeah, I kind of filtered out what I didn't want to watch because I'd heard that I like Man of Steel. That was the first one with the what's his name?
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, that was his first one, right?
Yeah,
Man of Steel. Okay, so
yep.
I have not seen Man of Steel, and I was like, I don't really care that much. I didn't see Batman v Superman. I didn't care to see the Justice League, and especially after hearing it was so bad, I was like, I don't want to watch any of these.
Well, there's
Uh,
also you also can't
I
forget there's two versions of the Justice League now.
Yeah, you got the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't watch that either. But and then you have see, I watched Wonder Woman. I watched Aquaman, but I think someone had gotten it, and we were watching it at like the house or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it. It was really bad. Like the only good part about it was Jason Momoa's abs. That was a
I,
that
I
that's
will
that's
say,
just the rest of it was bad. Bad acting, bad script. It was just a bad
yeah,
movie. Wonder Woman,
I,
Wonder Woman was good, and then Wonder Woman
the
2 was a
first one,
disappointment.
the first one is good. Okay, so of the DCEU, pretty much the only good movies are Wonder Woman and the Shazam movies.
Yeah, they did really well with the Shazam movie, or the first one that I've seen, and I would assume that if they did the same kind of style that they did
Mm-hmm.
with the first one, that it would obviously. You just said that it was a good movie, so I would assume it turned out like that. But like they did a really good job of casting and dynamic they got between the characters. Like it's all really well done and very out of character for DC. Actually make
Which
a good movie, but
I will say, as far as
hats off to
casting
them.
goes, as far as casting goes, the like DCEU movies up to date, the casting's actually been really good. It's just
Yeah,
they haven't been good movies. Like I actually really like Henry Cavill's Superman. I think he made a really good Superman, but
yeah. I didn't. I had, like from what I've
Man of
seen.
Steel was a bad Superman movie.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to the right because I mean, here's the thing: you look at these actors and other stuff; they're good actors.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't make good movies for these actors.
Mm-hmm.
It just comes down to that. And also, I think there's a lot of pressure on people who are writing these things, probably from DC, to be like, "Hey, look where Marvel's at right now. We got to get to where they're at." Marvel didn't. This didn't happen with Marvel overnight. Like they made a lot of movies to get to the point where they're at, and DC's trying to do the quick version of that. It's not working. You're not even making quality movies starting out. If you did that, maybe you could do something like the Marvels do.
I also just want to point out that the DCEU. Do you know what movie was originally supposed to? So the first movie is supposed to be Man of Steel, but do you know what movie was originally supposed to kick off that franchise?
Wasn't it Justice League?
No, it was the
Oh,
Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern.
oh no.
That movie flopped so bad that they just completely scrapped it from their timeline.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, obviously, the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie is like it's not good, but it's like Ryan Reynolds is such a good actor that it's still kind of good to watch. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you can tell that he has really bad lines, but like he semi makes it work. It's kind of like how like Liam Neeson in Episode One, Phantom Menace, and Star Wars. Like he had some corny lines, but because of the kind of actor that he is, he can kind of make those things work. You don't really see it as bad as it is, you know. But yeah,
Oh,
I watched
that's
Green
another thing.
Lantern, and it was like, go ahead.
There's another movie too that I forgot was even part of it. Oh, the Black Adam movie with The Rock. I haven't seen that,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but
Then I heard
that
that
was
was really bad.
that's supposed to be really bad too. I don't
Yeah,
really
and
have any.
and again,
Yeah.
and again, another good actor in a bad movie. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
can't write a good movie, it doesn't matter how good your actor is. And I think that's kind of the thing
Now,
that DC's finding out.
now DC also. So since we've actually started talking about, or since we tried talking about this the last time, there's actually been something else that happened with has happened with the DC universe. So the the Flash movie that's coming out in June.
Hmm. I was about to
So
ask about that.
So I'm honestly kind of surprised that they still made it. Just saying, but
Mhm.
that movie is supposed to be Flashpoint from the comics. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
much about DC Comics, but basically, so James Gunn, who directed the um, Guardians of the Galaxy movies and directed the Suicide
Mhm.
Squad, the most recent Suicide Squad movie, he's basically now the Kevin Feige of DC.
Huh.
So he's basically
Didn't
saying,
didn't
okay,
didn't he didn't he have a falling out with Marvel? Isn't that kind of why?
I'm not sure if he necessarily a falling out, but I think I think he said like the Guardians 3 is going to be his last one, last Marvel movie.
Okay. Okay. Well, anyways,
But
continue with what you were saying.
he's basically going to be the Kevin Feige of DC now, and so I'm kind of actually curious where they're going to go with this because like
Mhm.
obviously this is like resetting your whole timeline.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that's going to work. I really
Well,
don't.
like even with what they were looking at there, and like, isn't Michael Keaton supposed to come back as Batman too?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
that, like with some kind of a time thing. So it's like, are they gonna? And I've heard rumors with that, like that possibly uh Christian Bale might come back as Batman. So they're gonna bring back some
Oh
older
my
Batman
gosh.
actors and do a bunch of different things. And it's like,
You see,
but then again, that's the problem that they tried to overload their movies, but they can't find a plot point to follow
and you
throughout the
see,
movie.
that's the thing. The Flashpoint movie. I feel like if it's done right, it could be pretty good. But
Mhm.
I also see it having the potential of being a major dumpster fire.
Yeah. If I'm gonna watch anything Flash related, I'm gonna go to the CW show because
Well,
while it might be repetitive,
even that show just turned into a dumpster fire.
it did, and while it's repetitive, it still that's the sad thing. All the CW shows had the problem of running too long. They didn't know
Yep.
when to stop, and like they all started off like really good, honestly, and then like kind of degraded as they got a little bit farther down. You know, um, like with the Flash, like you can only do so much with the Flash, especially when you keep using fast characters as your villain, but and you want to keep the same cast. But still, that's for as corny as the show can be at times. That's definitely my Flash. 'Cause I've watched it. It's I like the show, and it's better than anything DC has put out. So
Yeah. But I am kind of curious where they're gonna go with this, like rebooting the timeline, because I will say so. The past couple now, other excluding Black Adam, the past couple DC movies have actually been good. Like Shazam 2 was really good. Now,
mhm.
it's not
What was the one
it's
before
gonna
that?
it's going to exist in its own universe, but the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson,
Oh, okay.
that one
See,
was actually really good.
that's another thing. Is like the one with Robert Pattinson over here. Like it's not even part of the DCEU, and it's like you're confusing your audience when you have like five different Batmans on screen, and nobody knows which one's supposed to be canon in this universe over here, and
Hmm.
it makes it really hard to follow what's going on. Like in all honesty, like I understand like what Ben Affleck's he's getting in his 50s now, right?
Hmm.
Something like that, late
Yep.
40s, early 50s. So it's like, yeah, I understand he probably doesn't want to be Batman anymore. But like you could have thought of that when you got him to be Batman the first time because it wasn't like he was young then. And if you wanted to have some longevity thing here, it's like you kind of screwed yourself over with that. And they I don't know. The problem is they're just trying so hard to get to Marvel's level that they can't take their time to figure out what they want to do. They're just trying to shove movies out, and it's like you're
Yeah.
shoving out dumpster fires of it. Just
Yeah.
save us
It's
the pain of watching it.
yeah. Um. Now, one thing I will say for I know we're like really supposed to be talking about the DCEU, but I do want to talk about the Batman for a minute here. One thing that with that movie, so
No
people,
spoilers, 'cause I haven't seen it.
I'm not going to give any spoilers for it, but
Okay.
people hate on that movie, even though like most of the complaints is for the casting.
Mhm.
You gotta get Twilight out of your head.
I will say it is a little weird seeing Robert Pattinson as Batman, but like at the same time, I really do think that's a good casting. Like as a young Bruce Wayne, like
And he
yeah,
plays
that
it
makes
really
sense.
well.
Yeah, and and like the costume design for his bat suit is like really good, like really
Oh yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I think I was looking at something. It might be either it's really more realistic than a lot of the other ones, or it's like really off the wall. Can't remember. But it looks really cool. I'll say that much.
It's a very much so in the vein of like the Dark Knight movies.
Okay, yeah. I know they try to take it more from like like he's doing it all with his Wayne Tech stuff, and it's supposed to be more like military grade stuff that he's getting over here. Trying to make it a little more realistic than a lot of the other
Mm.
ones. But hey, at least they don't have Batman. Uh,
Oh,
the
okay.
fact that the fact that George Clooney did that, one that he did that, but two that he did that and his career did not immediately end. That's saying something. But I will
Yeah.
say that actor who played Robin, I have not seen him in anything, so
Yeah.
he just
Yeah.
wasn't famous
You
enough.
know, at some point for the podcast, we need to talk about the Batman, like Batman, but we need to watch every live action Batman movie and then rank them.
How are we ranking them though? Because there's different kinds of ranking. Like, how would you
Well,
classify the best? Because I'll be
well,
honest here,
are you talking about? Are
that
you talking about
Batman
like the?
Forever or Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, I think it is. So, all right, both of those are very funny.
And a lot of these aren't trying to be.
Yeah, that's Bat
Well,
Card.
so if we do this though, we have to start with the Adam West Batman movie.
Yes, I think I've seen it before.
Yeah, it's. Let's see, what year was that one? Um,
60s or something.
yeah, but yeah, that I think would be a good thing to do on the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast, let us know if you want to see if you want to hear that.
Yeah, and if you don't, we're probably gonna talk about it anyways because we're only human. We only have so many ideas. You got to use them while we have them
Yeah. Um.
before before our brains leak out of our ears.
Yeah. 66.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam West is an interesting guy.
So when I was younger, I didn't really realize this, but the Adam West Batman show is a sitcom.
Yeah.
It's
I don't.
it's got a lot of like tropes and stuff in it. It's not it is comedy. It's not an actual like it doesn't take itself seriously at all.
Well, I mean, hey, when one you have Batman dancing, like this,
Yeah,
you can't expect it to be taken seriously. And two, when Pow and Bam pop up on screen every time someone gets hit, you know,
true.
you can only do so much. Um, but hey, I still think it was a good show, and like like you think about it, like as weird and awkward as it was, it like paved the
Well, think
way
about
for
it. That was
Batman.
that was also one of the first superhero shows. I think that was around. Well, actually, wait. The Superman was first,
You
but
had the black
still.
and white, whatever his name was, Superman. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
like in that same time period.
yeah.
Um, so it's only right that Superman would be the one to make the first movie of it too, because or have the first show and movie and all that stuff, because Superman was the one that kind of kickstarted it all.
Well, like Superman was one of the first comic book heroes in general.
He was the first, wasn't he? He kick started all that when
Well, I think
because
he
it
was.
was all he was the first from the DC, I know, but I don't think Marvel had started doing anything at that point. Because I think he's from
Well,
like the
Marvel didn't really exist until like the '60s or '70s because Marvel is kind of a combination of several different. It's been a while since I've looked into the
well they
history of these companies, but Marvel's kind of a combination of several different comic book companies.
yeah, well, okay, so Marvel, if I can remember right, because a while back, not too long ago, I did some research on the Marvel stuff because we were doing I was doing writing some um but yeah, Marvel was around, or not Marvel. What was the name of the company beforehand? Marvel has only been around since yeah, about the '60s, '70s when they changed to Marvel. Before that, they were Timely Comics, which Stanley worked for there. And Timely Comics has been around since like the '40s, maybe a little earlier. Um, but they had some characters, some superhero characters before that. But during like the '40s when the war hit and stuff like that, I know that superheroes was not exactly what the mainstream wanted, so they kind of went
Well,
away from that for a little.
I remember like Batman and Robin did exist during the '40s because I remember seeing
Mm-hmm.
a cover of a Batman. I forget exactly what it's from, but a cover of a Batman comic of Batman and Robin punching Hitler in the face.
Yeah, and obviously Captain America was made during that time as well because you got that picture as well there. Let's look this up here real quick. I'm gonna do this real quick. Let's find out when Superman was created and go to Batman. That's not how you spell created, but you know what? We got it. So Superman appeared in Action Comics #1, 1938.
Yeah, so '30s. So that was
So yeah, late 30s.
dang
Um,
towards the end of the Depression there.
well, I guess that'd probably be about the time when they were like, "Hey, people actually can buy these things now." So Batman was created about a year later, in 1930.
Mm.
Detective Comics #27. Um, let's see. He would have been made somewhere around the time. It is interesting to look into a lot of these. Like they're a lot older than you probably would expect. Like Captain America was made in '41, so that probably be like the early '40s is probably when a lot of this started booming. Early '40s, because I think during the '50s they went through a like more horror-esque phase where people were doing more like horror comics than anything else. I think is what I read. Um, and then like come like the '60s and '70s or something like that, they got back into superhero superhero genre. A lot of it had to do with like different guidelines that came into place for their comic books as kids were reading them. I think that's about the time that became Marvel.
So what I'm reading
And then
here,
all
talking about the earliest superhero.
mhm.
So use the term superhero. Was the Phantom created in 1936? So that would have been 2 years before the first issue of those Action Comics Superman was released.
Okay, okay. Um, is
See, I'm
he
trying to
still a
make sure.
character at any point? Is he still like around or owned by either Marvel or DC?
I'm assuming one of the studios still has the rights to him. Let me see if I can find. I was wrong. So the Phantom, like I said, was the first like comic book superhero, and he
Hmm.
was his first comic book or comic strip it wasn't even a comic book, it was a comic strip, was originally published in 1936, and the company that owns the Phantom now is Dynamite Entertainment.
Huh.
I never heard of that company, but I,
Hmm. Um. So let me clarify here. So you're wrong, but about what? Because I mean, I can think of a billion different things you're wrong about. So it's just the fact that DC or Marvel owns him. Oh, sorry, wasn't supposed to- but you're right about everything. Don't worry. I can't tell if you're trying to stare me down or what, because you're not really looking at me. So, I think you froze. Yeah, you froze. Although for some reason the fan is still turned into the background. See the little flickering light from the fan on the ceiling there. Anyways, okay, so Phantom is the first. So I guess Superman though was like right after that.
yeah,
Was there any other
Superman
heroes?
was 2 years after. Let me see.
Right in that time period is when a lot of those heroes were starting to get created. Um, and it's very interesting for I don't have the research with me, so I'm not going to go off and say that I'm really know what I'm talking about here. But for those of you listening, it's really interesting to look into. Um, like when you think of Marvel and you're not thinking about like superheroes, you think a lot about Stan Lee because he was the face of Marvel. But like you should look into the characters that he did create, and then some of the characters that were around long before he even started writing for timely comics at the time. Um,
Whoa.
you know,
Okay,
uh
so
oh, you find the jackpot.
Superman was originally published in June of 1938 by DC. And they did have several other characters, but most of them were like detective comics. You know,
Yeah,
Superman was the first like superhero. You could say. Let's see. There's a superhero just called Arrow, the Arrow. That
is that
wasn't
where they
DC.
had
That
Green
was
Arrow?
no, that's actually by a company called Centaur Publications. So either this got bought out by DC or DC's characters were a copy of this. And I'm assuming.
I will
I think I
say
think I think Green Arrow came before Hawkeye, but still. Let's see.
probably. I do know a lot of those like smaller companies that fizzled out or probably got over
Yeah.
time because the rivalry really over time just started becoming DC and Marvel, which contrary to how it looks in today's landscape, DC was winning for
Yeah.
most of the time
Well,
throughout the
I can
early
honestly
or late 1900s.
for like my childhood, I grew up watching like the Timverse animated Justice League show.
Yeah,
Justice
yeah,
League,
you and me both.
DCEU. Yeah, and you had the Batman the anime series, Superman the anime series, Batman
Well,
Beyond.
the thing
Those.
the thing is, and I'm not telling you anything new, but just for those listening, like the 2008 Iron Man was a last ditch effort for Marvel not to go bankrupt, and they had already
Mm-hmm.
gone bankrupt like in the early 90s, or I think again in the 2000s.
Well,
They had to
that's
like
why they sold
declare
off the movie.
bankruptcy and sell everything. Yeah,
That's why they sold the movie rights for so many of the characters. That's how Sony ended up with Spider Man. But
yeah.
let's see here.
Sony
So,
with that and Fox with the X Men and stuff like that. So
mhm.
they're
See
just now getting all their characters.
in 38 again, just later in 38, DC published a character called the Crimson Avenger. That's kind of Marvel's thing
Mhm.
now, but oh,
Yeah.
here we go. So uh, Timely Comics, which became Marvel, published
Mhm.
Namor the Submariner in 1939. In
That is
April of
weird.
19 in April of 1939, a month before the first Batman comic. So Namor
That's weird.
is older than Batman. That's yeah.
That is. When you think about it too, that means Namor is older than basically all or most of the Marvel characters.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because I just said that
Well,
Captain America was made in 41. And I didn't look up the rest of them to see when the rest of them were made. So,
Dang. This is another one, and this can lead us into something else that's coming up too. So I don't know if this is the same though, because it's by another comic book company. It's called Fox Publications. I don't know if that has
mhm.
anything to do with 20th Century Fox or not. I don't know. I don't know if that's the same company or not. But it's the Blue Beetle.
Oh,
Let me click this link here. You know
is
who the
that
Blue Beetle
supposed to
is?
be? That's the one from the Batman Brave and the Bold TV show, right?
Let me see if this is the same.
Is that who this was supposed to be? And then they bought him out. That is another thing that's kind of
Yeah,
weird. Is like,
so it looks like DC did buy this character, so it is probably the same Blue Beetle you're thinking of. But another thing
okay,
too, it's kind of
yeah,
interesting. So this was again in 1939. Which the character looks. I'm looking at some of these comic book covers. The character looks a lot different than it does today.
hmm,
But it's another thing, kind of interesting thing too. Is did you know later this year DC is actually making or is releasing a Blue Beetle movie, a live action Blue Beetle movie?
huh? No, I didn't know that.
Like there's like
Hmm.
nothing about it, and I saw that I'm like I've always thought that was a really cool character. I don't really know much about
Yeah,
the
no,
character, but I've also thought it was a cool character, and so I'm kind of interested in that movie. But again,
yeah. Well, they'll probably botch it.
yeah, probably yeah.
But that is weird to think that like some of the more popular characters, like they weren't written till later on. Like some of less known characters are the ones that were made first. I mean, obviously, like Superman and Batman were some of the first characters from DC, but more so on the Marvel side, it's like
Mm.
you know, there's certain characters that some people have never heard of who aren't like really big in the comics. You know,
All right, let's see
they're
here.
they're the first.
So the Flash. Now this was Jay Garrick Flash, like the original
Mm-hmm.
Flash, was 1940.
The one with the pith helmet.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Hawkman was also 1940.
Come on,
Let's see.
the more you know.
Yeah.
I will say we might at some point in time kind of want to go dive into the history of some of the comics, and we can maybe break down DC comics and Detective Comics and Marvel comics.
Dick uh,
And,
Dick Grayson Robin was also 1940.
okay,
So Batman
wow,
didn't have a sidekick for a year.
yeah. Well, hey, I mean, you think of a good duo, and Batman and Robin's the first iconic duo. That's what I'm saying. If
Yeah,
you're looking for an iconic duo, Batman and Robin's going to be the first you to get into together since the beginning.
pretty much. Yeah. All right, we've gotten kind of off top. Well, we're still talking about comic books, but we're getting kind of off topic. Going down this rabbit hole of. We could probably just find a Wikipedia article and go down a rabbit hole of that for a podcast. Honestly.
Well, we probably will someday. But like I was saying, I do think at some point we might want to do a podcast about diving deeper into DC Comics and Marvel Comics as well. Just kind of talking about some of the history of, um, I think both of us need a refresher on it. Um,
Yeah.
I've not looked a whole lot into DC, but I have a whole entire like outline for it. So, um, but it's interesting stuff. Like it's history.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, like you and I have never really been like comic book readers. We've been
Yeah.
like we watch like the animated shows and stuff, but we've
Mhm.
never really been like comic book readers.
And
Um,
I think for you too, you probably did this too. Like, it's not that like I'm sure there's a lot of things about the comics that you and I both know just from watching YouTube. Like I watched
oh
YouTube
yeah.
channels
Oh
like
yeah.
when I was younger, and they would basically go through like a lot of the more popular story, even some of the less popular stories from the comics. Like I know about because I've watched YouTube videos on it. So
Mm-hmm.
I would like to get into comics, but like I don't really know how necessarily. I guess you just kind of start, but it's just such an overwhelming thing. There's so many comics out there, and it's like, you know, is should I?
Yeah, it's
I will say that bookstore that Katie likes so much there, they have that comic section. Thought about maybe looking at some.
now so,
Then
some
again,
stuff that like DC's releasing now is like they've got some of their like Golden Age comics or comic series
yeah,
that they're actually releasing in hardcover books.
huh,
Yeah,
kind of
some
cool.
of those are kind of interesting. Like so they're actual graphic novels, you know. Now one comic series that I actually kind of do want to read after I know I don't think you've watched any more than what we watched together, but do you remember watching Invincible?
I do remember that, and yeah, all I've watched is that a little bit there. At some point, I
Okay.
need to finish.
Yeah. So that is from the first season of Invincible on Amazon. I I love that show. But
Who
that
who? I mean, obviously it's on Amazon there, but like, is that an Amazon original thing or like who owns the
no,
characters?
it's based on a comic book.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm saying like whose comic book?
I forget his name. I'm pretty sure it's the hold up.
So it's not like a company. It's a guy or somebody who did it.
One second. Let me
I'll let you
pull
do
this up just make sure.
your
Just
you
make
do
sure I
your
fact you know.
yeah, you do your research and then
Yeah, Robert Kirkman, which I'm pretty sure he's also yeah. So it's also Robert Kirkman's also the same guy who wrote the Walking Dead comics.
okay.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, it was published by a comic book company called Image Comics. But yeah,
Hmm.
Robert Kirkman was the pretty much sole writer of of the
Hmm.
series.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to get because they have like 3 volumes that are like that thick.
Oh wow.
Looks like a textbook. That's just
Yeah.
comics these things. I kind of want to get those and read those, but they're kind of pricey. But yeah, those would be one comic. Those are kind of one comic series that I do want to read.
Maybe at some point which I don't know. It sounds like they probably have a bigger audience than I'm aware of. But maybe at some point I need to finish watching through all that, and we can talk about that on the podcast.
Well, and season 2 is coming out later this year, so we need to do that, talk about it, and then we can watch season 2 and talk about it.
Okay. Is it only on Amazon? Like I'm not gonna find it anywhere.
The show is an Amazon original. Yeah.
I'll see if I can go on the dark web somewhere and find it.
Or I could
No question.
I can honestly just give you my Prime login.
Okay, fine. But I'm gonna go on the dark web. I'm gonna get you hacked on the dark web. Yes.
Well, now I don't know if I want to give you my Amazon login.
Haha, that's what you think. I already have it.
uh,
All right,
well,
David. I I,
I
I think
think
it's
we're about
about
done.
time to. I was gonna say, I think it's about time to get kind of back on track and then finish up what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to do that, but I'm going to leave that in your more than capable nubs.
Well, we've been all over the place with this episode, but
Yeah. But
I think
hey, on the plus side, we have stayed pretty close to where our topic
I
is.
mean
Like we're staying with
we've
the
still been
comic.
on top we've still been on topic of comics, yeah.
Yeah, comics and a lot of DC with it also too. It's just maybe
Yeah.
not exactly DCEU, but in all honesty, is the DCEU really worth our time?
Yeah. So pretty much in closing, most of the DCEU has been a huge dumpster fire,
Yeah.
and I honestly kind of want to see where it's going to go from here. I don't really have high hopes, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and just head on to an outro.
Well, explorers, that's all the time we have for today.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Tell us what you thought in the comments down below, or you can DM us on Instagram at DownTheRabbitTrailYT.
And be sure to join us next week on the Trailcast.